Four, please, on the pod from Bernardsville, New Jersey, Christopher Powers. That's right, Golf Digest staff writer and guy who seems to do it all over there is joining the pod to talk about the PGA Championship coming up this week at Valhalla. What should we expect? What should we expect from a player like, say, hey, Rory McIlroy, who just won 2 straight titles on the PGA Tour at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans and the Wells Fargo Championship. Scottie Scheffler's won 4 out of his last 5 starts, but we haven't seen him because he's having his first child, so he has been off the course for the last few weeks. Brooks Koepka just won on Live Golf. Is he back in form as he attempts to defend his PGA Championship title? Michael Block, we're not talking about him winning, but we are talking about guys like Xander Schauffele, John Rahm, Ludwig Oberg. What sort of players are we going to see show up in Kentucky this week? That'll be those will be some interesting storylines. So Christopher, I wanted to get him on. He knows so much about the game, has fresh, candid takes that he gets into as we preview the 2024 PGA Championship. That is coming up on Eyes on Golf. PGA Championship week, so I had to bring in a guy that I have come to admire in the internet sphere, in the golf writing sphere, in the do-it-all, jack-of-all-trades in golf sphere. Christopher Powers is a staff writer for Golf Digest, co-host of the Loop podcast for Golf Digest. I believe, what are you, you're self-defined some guy on Twitter?
Some random guy on Twitter, as someone once put it, yes.
Well, I think you're not random. If you were random, you're not anymore, as you continue to be a beacon of light in the golf industry right now as you guys continue to grow. I know your podcast, you, Stephen Hennessy, Alex Myers. It looks like you got Blocky on this week. You guys are just doing everything right now.
Big get this week with our boy Michael Block, who did the interview live from a Raising Cane's down in Florida. So excited to bring that to the listeners for sure.
All right, well, we will see that from Blocky coming on up, but I want to talk PGA Championship with you. I want you to put your hat on right now. You're the Daily News, you're the New York Post, you care about golf. What is the headline for this upcoming PGA Championship?
Man, when you sent me this question, I love the question, obviously, as someone who actually used to work for the New York Daily News and loves a good New York Post headline. I think it would still probably be something Tiger related, just the fact that he's showing up and he drives kind of clicks and page views nowadays, as they call them. But if, I wanted to, play devil's advocate with that, I would go with something Scottie related, maybe related to him just having a baby, maybe related to him possibly going on like a Grand Slam type of charge this year, because I do think that would be the biggest story this week if Scottie were to get it done, just having a baby, and then the Grand Slam stuff gets very real very quickly, as we saw with Jordan Spieth almost 10 years ago now, which is crazy to say, but when he won the Masters and the Open at Chambers Bay, and then had a legitimate chance to win the British as well. So I think it would probably still be Tiger if the New York Post was going to go with a golf headline, but I would say Scottie for now.
So you still think the New York Post is trying to reach the general demographic here? If we're talking maybe more a Golf Digest tabloid, what is the golf-heavy storyline for the hardcore fans coming into this PGA?
For the hardcore fans, it's got to be obviously Rory coming off a victory, and the fact that he won at this golf course, and it is his last major on his resume. That is 10 years ago now. We are a decade ago now. So obviously he's playing really well. The consistency is out of control with him. As much of a, people think I am a Rory hater, and I can be at times, but the consistency out of him always impresses me. And like as is the case with a lot of these high-end guys, we saw him make a few putts yesterday and he can just run away with a golf tournament. So that has always impressed me about him. Obviously the wedge play needs to be better, but approach play has been good at Zurich and Wells Fargo. So look, if you love Rory and you think he's going to, get it done again, the stars are sort of aligning for this week for him.
Well, I was going to say, I wanted to start with either Rory or Scottie, but now I want to give you the floor to pick who should we start with? Because I think it would have been Scottie, and now all of a sudden Rory. I mean, it's amazing how golf changes, right?
Yep.
I've been thinking about that meme, right? That fighting the urge to say we're back. In this case, a month after we said Rory was done. Is Rory cooked? Can Rory compete this year? Can he compete at a major? And all of a sudden, here he is, 2 straight wins, and all of a sudden we're putting him in the Scottie conversation. So I'll make this decision. Let's start with Rory.
Yep.
How real should we treat his 2 wins at Zurich and this past week at Wells Fargo with no Scottie in the field, but still 2 very strong performances by Rory?
Well, yeah, personally, if I'm putting my Rory hater cap back on, I don't think he's back until he actually wins a major. I've said that for a long time now, which does seem hypocritical and contradictory because I do believe that these PGA Tour wins do still matter. And obviously, Rory still believes that. You heard him say yesterday in his interview afterwards, he wants to keep coming back and winning as many Wells Fargos as possible, whatever they're going to be called in the future. I don't know if it'll still be Wells Fargo, but while I do still believe that legacy and PGA Tour victories matter, he's in a different category of, it's time to win a major again for Rory, put up or shut up time. So I'd like to see him get it done this week. Again, people think I'm a hater. I want nothing more than to see that guy we saw 10 years ago kind of freewheeling it. And again, I said stars are aligning. It looks like it's going to rain a little bit. It was obviously wet when he won here last time. So it should, again, line up for a Rory win, which usually indicates very, very disappointing, like T8 is coming.
Yeah, for everyone, if you don't know, Rory winning 4 majors, by age 25, happened. The last major, the 4th major, happened in the 2014 PGA Championship at Valhalla. Valhalla, whatever. We're going to hear a lot of different critiques on pronunciation coming up. But Rory did it 10 years ago. He hasn't won a major since. He's come close. He's been the best player in golf overall. I know people will fight me on that over the last 10 years. They'll fight me on that because he didn't win a major. But overall, he has been the best player. And one thing that I pointed to last year, I said right around this time, I have the receipts. I said 17 out of Rory's 23 wins had come from May to September in his career. And then he went out, he won Scottish last year in terms of PGA Tour wins. He comes back, wins Zurich this year, which was right on the fringe of May, not right there. And now all of a sudden he wins again in May to get his 26th win. I know there was a lot of Rory playing a lot early on this year, wanted to play those extra events, wanted to play in Palm Beach, wanted to play in Texas at Valero to try to get himself into Masters form. He didn't. But now it feels like we're in traditional Rory season all of a sudden. And maybe that especially bodes well since the PGA has moved from August to May, his sweet spot right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, stars are lining with the golf course. And you said it. The last 10 years, he has been the best player. And obviously, he hasn't won a major. But guys like Spieth, guys like JT, even Dustin Johnson to an extent, and you could throw in Brooks, they all go through their little, months of absolute, kind of crap play and slumps. We saw JT and Spieth go through crazy slumps. Obviously, Brooks had the injuries, which led to a slump. Rory never really has a slump. He just hasn't won a major in that same time frame as those guys have been winning majors. So you got to take the good with the bad when it comes to Rory in that conversation.
Rory's at plus 700. Scottie is still the betting favorite at plus 400. I'm not going to ask you what sort of form necessarily you think Scottie's going to be in because we won't know. We can sit here and critique Scottie sitting around the hospital waiting for his baby to be born, but we really don't know. We've also heard that he was out playing with Tony Romo at one point, so he's staying in form as much as he can. If we assume he's in form, does it just feel like Scottie is perhaps the best betting favorite since Rory at his peak a decade ago, or we have to go all the way back to Tiger in the 2000s?
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of wish he did play Zurich or Byron or one of those.
I said Byron, right? He could have just look
just to see,
if he got the call, just drive home.
Yeah,
he's in Dallas.
I would like to see just if he won that, or I mean, let's be honest, what was he going to finish at worst, like tied for 5th or something? Then I think we are in like at plus 200 or 2-1, however you want to say it, territory. Maybe even in even money territory if he went out and won the Byron Nelson, which would be getting into the Tiger Woods conversation of kind of, Tiger versus the field, Scottie versus the field. But now that, you're getting a little bit of a, I guess you could call it price break on him, value if you are a Scottie person, or if you like to parlay a Scottie Scheffler 4-1 with a couple other things. Maybe a Knicks Game 5 victory, maybe a Rangers Game 5 victory tonight. But yeah, I think I would have loved to see him play those two events just to see how crazy the number would have gotten. But for now, I think it's fair, especially with Rory and Brooks coming in off victories.
We'll get to Brooks in a sec. Nelly Korda lost by 17 shots this week. I don't know if that was almost a wake-up call for like, oh man, is Scottie not indestructible? Seeing Nelly, only finish T7 with 273s on the weekend. I know obviously they're two very different human beings, but did that make you pause for a little bit and remember just how volatile golf can be?
Yeah, and just how hard it is to keep that level of, going back to the Rory conversation, how impressive it is to see the consistency over a very long period of time. And Nelly and Scottie have been consistent for a while now, but it's hard to do it every single week and every weekend under that type of pressure. And again, she finished tied for seventh. It's the same as Scottie. It's like, oh, Scottie had a bad week. He tied for seventh. He just didn't make a couple putts this week. And I don't know who was beating Rosang anyway. I know that Sagstrom almost did and kind of hung with her, but if there was going to be a week to kind of come back to life, that was probably a good week for Nelly to do it.
Brooks Koepka, you mentioned him. So let's get into Brooks because even before Live, there were always major weeks where we say, okay, well, what Brooks are we going to get? The guy that just walks in out of nowhere and can always play? Or, are we going to, is it going to be touch and go? Are we going to get injured Brooks? Are we going to get out of form Brooks? And like the Masters last year, we're getting a Brooks that comes off of a Live Golf win, just won Live Singapore for his fourth Live Golf title. And that was, as much as Brooks wants to say non-majors don't matter, that was indicative of what we were about to see from Brooks, right? The Masters, the runner-up finish, and then the PGA, he wins. And then his game trails off on Live and his game trails off on majors. So when you see him win over in Singapore, how does that change your entire thought process with Brooks after the Brooks that we saw at the Masters that finished T45?
Well, to me, it's more what he said afterward, which was, I had that bad week at the Masters. It really pissed me off. I disappointed my team. I let everybody down, and I had to kind of correct that. So that's him kind of saying out loud, while I put up this kind of front, like nothing matters but the majors. Even he knows you need the reps. You need to see, maybe not always a win, but get into contention, kind of feel the heat again, even if it's a 54-hole event. So just the way he's speaking makes me like him this week. Obviously, he knows how to defend a title, a major championship title. He's done it twice, once at this event, once at the U.S. Open. And we're hearing all about the Scottie baby swag. I mean, Brooks has the baby swag going for him as well right now, as we saw him lift his son up after the win in Singapore.
Yeah, Crew's been stunting on us with that helmet. I think you're right with the thought process with Brooks that I think that we've gotten to this point where we feel we've been trained never to count Brooks out of a major.
Yeah.
I still feel the same way about Spieth at the Masters, even with the miscut, right? I still feel like Jordan's going to show up.
He only had 2 bad holes. Otherwise, he would have had a chance, according to him.
And I didn't even put Jordan on our rundown, but I think Jordan will show up as a 48-year-old at the Masters, and all of a sudden he'll have 1 week there just because of how he knows the course. These PGA Championship, these U.S. Open courses, which we'll get into the similarities of those, but they lend well to Brooks's game and the challenge and hard golf courses. Another guy you would think would be right up there is Jon Rahm. And now here's an example of a guy where a lot of people will say about Liv, only the majors matter, or which, first of all, I hate as a golf conversation, Live or PGA Tour stan. Let's love all golf. Let's care about golf.
I'm
like
with
why
you
are
there.
why are we trying to segment the sport to four weeks a year? But I think you would expect Rahm to just be able to show up for the next still another decade and do this. And it was something that I pointed out, and a lot of people pointed out coming into the Masters, that he had played roughly half the competitive events that he had played in 2023 leading up to the 2024 Masters. And that number is very similar as we get to the PGA Championship. So it's not a matter of, in my mind, the competition of Live Golf as much as a guy like Rahm, who maybe unlike Brooks needs those weeks of warm-ups, needs those weeks to get into form, and he just hasn't had it. He hasn't been able to get into a rhythm that I think is his biggest challenge playing live golf right now. How do you judge Rahm coming into this week? Still no wins on live golf.
Just based off the number alone, I think it's in that like crazy disrespectful zone. 16-1, John
Yeah.
Rahm. If you told us a year ago, hey, you can have John Rahm next year, pick a major, 16-1, we would all sign on the dotted line in 1 second. So for that reason, it makes me want to just kind of hammer it and live with the result. He has had a couple starts since the Masters. I think like Brooks, that Masters kind of middling finish really pissed him off. He's had to watch Scottie take over the sport for the last month. If that doesn't motivate a John Rahm, I don't know what will. But like you said, it is kind of that switch flipping zone for him right now. It's been 2 starts and he's played okay on live. I think you're right. He was a guy like, he was the opposite of Brooks, where Brooks kind of wanted to just have a couple reps before the major. I think Rahm loved playing. We've heard him say,
Mhm.
I miss Riviera, I miss Waste Management. Like he loved playing all those events. He loved having a lot of reps under his belt, being in contention every single week. He has obviously not had that on live. But again, 16-1. Again, if you told me that a year ago, I would have said, yes, 100%. I don't care how he looks, how he's played, whatever. So with that in mind, I think I have to just bet it based off of that.
Yeah, I don't know how many practice rounds at Silverleaf can equate
Yeah, right.
to a PGA Championship, a competitive round at Valhalla. So you hear what Christopher is saying there. Plus 1600 is where John Rahm is sitting. I don't necessarily have the data in front of me, but we probably haven't seen those odds,
No.
since pre-Masters
No.
last year when Rahm won for a major. So he's slipping a little bit there. Brooks was at plus 1400. Another guy who's at plus 1400, believe it or not, he's at plus 4.
Oh,
We
I
talk about
believe
these
it.
guys. We talk about these guys in the. I think there's a big five right now in terms of form, and this guy's the fifth. He doesn't have a major. He's got a lot of runner-up finishes on the PGA Tour. He's got a lot of top fives and top tens at majors. Xander Schauffele is at plus 1400. He is playing I was ready to say that he was the second best player in the world on
I
Thursday
saw
and
your tweet.
Friday.
I
You
didn't
saw,
disagree with it. I didn't disagree with it.
and then Rory, I
Yeah.
kind of I responded to someone. I think Peter Bukowski was in the comments talking about Rory, and I said, "Well, maybe Rory will revisit this on Sunday." So yeah, let's revisit. Rory's the number 2 guy right now, but Xander has had the most consistent season
Yep.
on the PGA Tour this season, and there's something to be said for a guy that I believe has 8 top 10s now and 11 or 12 starts. Has been around the hoop so many times. The critique is always going to be that he hasn't got it done on Sunday in these big events. He just got wiped by Rory on a Sunday in Charlotte, but you have to keep putting him in the conversation. And I made him my non-Scottie Masters bet, and I want to do it again, Christopher.
Me
So I don't know
too.
if you want to. I don't know if you want to talk me out of it or keep me in here, but I just think he's going to get one of these U.S. Opens or PGA Championships.
Could not agree more. We just shot a gambling video that I like to do for all the majors, and I was riding pretty hard for Xander. I feel like I planted my flag on Xander like you did at the Masters, and then I said, I guess once you do it and he finishes top 10, it's like you got to keep doing it until he gets it done. But everything you said was right. That was tough to watch yesterday. I don't know if he was going to beat Rory, even if he played well. I mean, if he shot 4 or 5 under, he was still going to lose. So like you said, he keeps putting himself around the hoop. I think the math is on his side. It will eventually be on his side. He's going to have one of those days where every putt falls. Hopefully it's this coming Sunday, because I will be betting on Xander Schauffele for sure. And he has had those days in the past. I mean, he's a 7-time PGA Tour winner, or 6 or whatever he has. And he's had Sundays where everything has fallen. He shot 62. He shot 63 to kind of close it out. So he can get it done. It's about timing for him. I hope that timing is right for this week, because I love Xander. I want him to get it done. He's a good dude, and I think he's going to eventually.
7 PGA Tour wins, a gold medal. You
I
could
think
argue.
I don't think he's. I think his last missed cut was that Players where his hat like blew off in the wind. I'm pretty sure that's his last, and that was like 2 years ago. So
No, he's
unreal
the
consistency.
most
Yeah.
consistent player in golf. And by the way, I think it would be definitely 8 if we went by low gross at the Tour Championship, and I believe he would have got a playoff at the Tour Championship
Yep.
for a 9th based on low gross. So that it speaks a little bit to Xander has stepped up in the Tour Championship. Down the board after those 5 guys, there's Ludwig Oberg, Bryson DeChambeau, Max Homa jumps out, Victor Hovland, who was right in the thick of the PGA Championship last year, is at plus 3,500 right now. Are there any odds, any names, any thoughts that jump off the board for you down the list?
Ludwig, that was so impressive at Augusta. I was among the people that was like, this is his first major. I think everyone's got to chill out with this guy. And then he almost won the thing. If it wasn't for, kind of he needed that veteran knowledge on 11 to not go left there. And he probably would have had a decent chance to win. I'm not going to bet it, so I have to find a reason not to. I'll just say maybe the knee is a problem. I don't think it is. He probably just wanted to pull out and take a week of rest for Byron Nelson or whatever it was. I think he'll be fine. He's so good. That golf swing is incredible. You mentioned Max, back-to-back top tens in majors. He kind of quickly ended that narrative. Now the next step would be winning one. He just played really well at Wells Fargo. I don't know if I'll bet it. Who else did you mention? Hovland, just can't trust him right now, obviously. If he was 50-1, if I'm going to bet a guy I can't trust, I need 50-1 or higher. I know they're scared of Hovland probably having a spike week. He got off to a good start at the Masters, and then it all just fell apart. But 35-1, not a guy you can trust right now, Hovland. I saw you put down Patrick Rogers in your notes. I won't be betting Patrick Rogers to win a major.
So I was going to get ahead of it. You're a big Patrick Rogers stan. Let me say this. He's tweeting Pacers stuff out right now. Like, is he
talking a big game?
I mean, I feel like you're his number one better out there, number one fan, and he's calling out New York right now, it feels like.
It's like the MJ thing. It's easy to talk when you're up. They finally won. They won a game or two, and now they're talking. So,
but yeah, I put a lot of guys on there. I do want to get your sleeper picks. We've had, I don't know if you want to call Brian Harman a complete sleeper last year. He said, he's like, what? I'm top 25 in the world, top 20 in the world. I'm not really a sleeper. I think we felt like Danny Willett was a sleeper, and he was 12th or 13th when he won the Masters. Are there guys that people aren't thinking about that are sneaky right now that can win at Valhalla?
Well, when people talk about the live guys, you hear Neiman, you hear we'll get to Gooch later. You hear Rahm. I think my favorite play, and I'm sure a lot of people will be on it, but Tyrrell Hatton is 55-1. I saw this morning. 9 straight major cuts, 5 of those finishes in the top 20. Great track record on hard golf courses. This is going to be a hard golf course this week. It's going to be long. It's going to play a little linksy. I saw, of course, if there's a little bit of rain, that'll slow things down. But coming off a 9th at Augusta, of course, he basically has said all the bad things about you can think of, and he still almost figured it out. So I think he just shows up on big time weeks. So I really like Hatton. 55-1 is crazy. He's had some solid finishes on live too, so it's not like he's coming in with crappy form. And then I like Shane Lowry. People have been super high on him. Yep. He has 3 top 12s in his last 5 PGAs. So this is obviously a style of golf he likes. I just mentioned the links thing that plays right into his hand as well. And then my, I guess, deeper guy would be Russell Henley, who's shown some solid form in the majors over the last few years and has probably the quietest stretch of 6 events these last 6. I think he has 4 top 12s in his last 6, and you wouldn't even know it because the broadcast probably hasn't even shown a Russell Henley golf shot.
I'll give you 3 names down the board in my mind. Sungjae Im showed signs of life this past week at plus 6,000. A guy who we talk about Xander's consistency, never to that point, but over the last, if you look at the consistency data over the last 5 years, Sungjae is right up there. Maybe rounding into form, and you can get him at low odds at plus 6,000. So a big shout out to Sungjae, obviously a fan favorite. Akshay Bhatia is at plus 13,000. We just had the whole conversation about Ludwig. Akshay, it feels like, as a step behind Ludwig, but with those odds and the way that he strikes the golf ball, obviously hasn't been in that situation. And you can argue Ludwig got the Ryder Cup experience, really got good competitive experience, was playing in a lot of signature events. But I think that Akshay deserves a little bit of a look down the board here.
Course
and then
history. Won that course history.
Exactly. And then I'm going to put Jake Knapp in the conversation at plus 18,000 because I think I watched Jake Knapp. I called both the Mexico Open at Vedanta, and the the CJ Cup Byron Nelson, he got punched in the mouth of the Byron
Mm,
Nelson, but I think people might not realize in non-signature events, Jake Knapp has been probably the most dominant player in them so far, who's not a guy who was qualified for the signature events entering this season. I feel like he's got at least some experience down the stretch with the fundamentals that he has, with the way that he has played, with his distance, with his length for a PGA Championship course. I think that he should be considered as a long shot. I want to get a couple more questions before I got to get you out. You mentioned Gooch, so let's just talk about Gooch. Some of the guys, the live guys that got invites: Taylor Gooch, Lucas Herbert, Adrian Moronk, I have on the list. Not Neiman. I'm not considering, guys
yeah.
that really have proven that they deserve it. Is this a critical moment for these guys to prove themselves? And if they don't get it right, if those three guys I mentioned say miss the cut, does that change the PGA Championships, kind of the way that they could make decisions moving forward?
Well, I'd argue it's most critical for Gooch, and you said Neiman, but I think it's him too because those are the two who have kind of ran their mouths a little bit about this stuff. We saw Neiman, of course. Neiman did it literally right after a victory twice. I think he mentioned it, but Gooch, yeah, I think it's really critical for Gooch after the U.S. Open stuff, and I think it was a good move by the PGA. I think it adds a little intrigue because people are going to want to see how these guys play. But a Lucas Herbert and Adrian Moronk, if they miss the cut, nobody cares. Whatever. Gooch, if he misses the cut, it's going to be a field day on social media, as it should be. Less so for Neiman, who's crazy of 22-1 or whatever he is. But I don't think it'll change how. I mean, I don't. God knows what's going to happen this offseason, so we'll see. I think there's going
We're,
to be an easier path for live golfers. We'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there. But in terms of, I think it's most critical for Gooch, and I would also argue Neiman just because he's kind of ran his mouth a little bit, and he's obviously expected to play pretty well based off of his odds.
Yeah, well, all right, and I don't know. I want to get you out in time, Christopher, because I know you got a whole film crew around your house right now. You're big time at this time, but you talked about it there. Just we're not going to have a lot of answers about the state of golf here at the PGA Championship. I think the Masters had less live golf talk than we've ever
Yep.
had at a major. I think it's kind of gone the other way, that now when major championships happen, it feels like, let's not talk about this stuff. Let's just enjoy the
Yep.
golf, everyone playing together. But if you were in charge of golf right now, you're the czar of golf. What do you do? What's your move?
I mean, I'm probably a bad guy to ask this because I would do the opposite of where it seems to be going, which is where Rory wants it to go, which is what this Wells Fargo was: smaller fields, no cut. Obviously, this simulator league is coming. I am so anti that simulator league, so I'm a terrible guy to ask because they're going in the complete opposite direction of where I would go. I think the person who said the best thing about it was Ricky. I don't know how you get this, but you need a legitimate off season that lets people kind of be like, oh, I can't wait till golf comes back. I can't wait till golf comes back. Like, we need multiple months of, I don't want to say nothing. There's always going to be golf tournaments. There's always going to be little events to play in for these guys, but there needs to be some, absence makes the heart grow fonder thing that the NFL seems to have going for it. I don't know how golf gets to that. Just go to 20 weeks or something, 25 weeks, and have, 15 of the events be everybody's there, including the
Mm-hmm.
four majors. Less is more type of scenario, but it seems like we're just adding more, and the simulator thing is the perfect example of that. The appeal of Tiger and Rory is not them hitting into a screen, but obviously people who make way bigger decisions and way more money than me think it's going to be a huge hit.
All right. Well, I'll ask a different question before I let you go, focused on this PGA Championship. I'll give them a lot of credit, not just the move to May, or you could say the move to May if you take away that the COVID PGA, which happened to go back to late summer at Harding Park. We've had some really good, 4 of the last 5 have been really good single digit winners. Feels like they've emulated a lot of the US Open: grow the rough higher, make the course harder, lengthen the course. And I think they didn't want that to be their MO. They wanted that to be the US Open's MO, but it's made for more enjoyable, challenging experiences. And I feel like better winners. How do you feel about the state of the PGA Championship right now?
I've made this argument for a couple of years. I think it's overtaken the U.S. Open.
Mm.
The move on the calendar for sure has helped that. It used to be banished to late August, where there's always thunderstorms. There was always electricity in the air. It was always kind of a boring, glory's last shot, whatever you wanted to call it. Now it's got this, May is the PGA month. Had some great golf courses, obviously. Some great winners too. It's been amazing the run they've had here, and I think this week will be no different. I think we're going to have a Scottie, Brooks. I hope Rory, throw in a Spieth, throw in a Justin Thomas with the home game angle. If we can get all those guys jockeying on Sunday, I would love to see some unsavory characters in the mix too, like a Cantlay or a Patrick Reed. I think that stuff is great, and throw in Rahm as well. So I think we will get that. It's that type of course where we're gonna look up on Sunday, and it's gonna be all the best ball strikers in the world kind of jockeying for position. So I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, I think Bryson will be around the first 3 days. I think
Bryson
he'll fade
too,
on
absolutely.
Sunday. I think he'll fade on Sunday, but you're not going to tell. We're going to get one good Bryson press conference after
Absolutely.
167 or something like that. We're going to get one of those. Bill Simmons used to say about the PGA, and not that he's a stalwart of golf coverage, but he would say that he wanted to see it with either guys had a cart or guys had to carry their own bag, that they had to spice it up somehow. But you're right. I think May has led to firmer conditions, crustier conditions, more challenging conditions. You don't get those soft courses at the end of August as it's gotten wet, as it's gotten summery. I think you're exactly right with where things stand. And let's finish off with your guy, your new best friend, Michael Block, comes on the loop with you guys. T15 last year, didn't get a top 20 this year at the PGA Professional Championship. So maybe he's not in form, but he does have the new course record at Valhalla. Without teasing your podcast, what did he have to say?
Well, I actually asked him about that. I said, what was it like playing in that PGA Professional Championship without having the pressure of wanting and needing to finish in the top 20 to get in? He said, and he thought it actually hurt him because he kind of let his guard down a little bit. So I think he'll be locked in and focused. He said he was getting there. I think he's already there. He got there this past weekend.
Yeah.
And he had like 3 nights to himself. He told us he was in a hotel one night, and then he got into his house Saturday night. So he's been by himself. He said he didn't even go with his caddy. He got a few practice rounds this weekend by himself in a cart. So I think he's going to be pretty dialed in. I'm not going to say he's going to contend again. I think Michael Block makes the cut, and everyone gets 4 full days of blocky coverage, which I know everyone's really pumped about.
There are some people that will love it, and there are some people that will complain about that for all 4 days. T15 for Blocky last year. Turns out golf is a meritocracy, right? It feels better when he had something on the line, maybe a little extra juice. We'll see. His big rival, Rory, just got 2 straight wins. So would love to see the PGA of America maybe pair those 2 guys to start. Christopher Powers, where can the people find you?
The Loop podcast, golfdigest.com, constantly, and obviously chopping it up on Twitter. I'm on TikTok now, Instagram, throwing up some videos every day. So, check me out basically everywhere you can think of. Check him out. Podcast coming up with Blocky. We're talking on Monday, Rangers game 5 tonight, trying to finish the deal. You going to the Garden? I'm not. I checked the prices this morning. They're a little healthy for my tastes. All right, I'm gonna wait on next round. Yeah. Save it for next round. Go down to Sunrise or Boston or something like that. Christopher Powers, thanks for being on Eyes on Golf. Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening. Good luck with all your picks. Good luck with all maybe your bets, your daily fantasy, your fantasy golf, your pools, whatever it may be for the PGA Championship. Thanks for Christopher coming on, talking some golf, talking some PGA Championship with us. Love to get the opinion of some people who are much smarter than me in the golf world. So thanks for listening to Eyes on Golf. Remember to follow and subscribe. We're putting out some awesome content in the social media sphere. And I, Jeff Eisenband, will see you next time.